what's the ruling here? What do I need to do? And the scholars say it again, you don't need to mention that person's name. You can just say, me and another person had a conflict, and this happened. How do we deal with it? And the fourth one is, when you're trying to warn people of somebody bad, somebody that does something wrong. If you know somebody who cheats in their business, and a friend of yours and a family member or somebody came and asked you about him, and you know for sure, then you just give them that warning and say, hey, I know because of experience, A, B, C. You don't tell them, well, I think that they are bad, or I heard, that they are bad people. No. If you're not sure, then you don't want to commit that ghiba, because there's a very, very fine line between what is permissible and what's not. And it's 99.9% not permissible. And it's that very, very small percentage where it can be said. And then they said if somebody goes around and is proud of their sinning, or proud of what they're doing wrong, then, repeating what they said is not considered as ghiba per the scholars. But again, they say that, trying to avoid it as much as you can. And the last but not least, they're saying if you're trying to define somebody, or if you're trying to mention or describe somebody that you know with a physical disability or something that, a marker on their body. You're talking about somebody, I'm sure that person doesn't want you referring to them as, the person with a missing arm or missing leg. But if you find different ways, like I said, then these are the different ways that you need to go with, instead of just saying, trying to bring up all the bad things about that person. So when we look at these different things, it's really not worth, at the end of the day, committing ghiba. When we sit there and think about what we said last week, or you can even pick one day where you had different conversations with people, and see, did you commit ghiba that day? Was it worth it? Was it worth talking about the other person? Was it worth losing your hasanat for? Was that person that you're talking about worth giving your hasanat to? Because that's where your hasanat is going to go to. If you're talking bad about a person, then they're going to get your hasanat at the end of the day. And if you're talking bad about them, then you must not like them. Then are you really willing to give them your hasanat? Why do we put ourselves in situations where we don't need to? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us different ways to gain hasanat. In one of the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, is saying that if you're using your body parts in, good ways, then you're going to get hasanat for it. So the Sahaba asked them, they were like, really? Does this really happen? Then the Prophet ﷺ answered and said, if you use, your hand in killing somebody, don't you get punished for it? Don't you get sins for it? He said the same thing if you use your hand to help somebody poor, or to help somebody up, or whatever it is, then the same thing. So the same thing with the tongue. And instead of using our tongue to commit ghiba against others, let's use it in something good. Let's use it in remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's use it in mentioning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's use it in teaching people what they don't know. Now, for somebody to really, ask for forgiveness or repent from committing ghiba, it's simple in a way, but in another way, it can be a little hard, because you're doing it against somebody else. You're doing it against a person who you might have to go and ask their forgiveness, who you might have to go and tell them about what you did, and admit that you did wrong and truly understand that what you're doing is wrong, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. Because at the end of the day, we are all going to be held responsible for what we say and what we do. If we have too much pride to ask for forgiveness or to ask people to forgive us now, then at Judgment Day, it's going to be too late. They're going to get your hasanat and you're going to end up with nothing. So let's make sure that when we go home today, that we seriously think about what we say. And seriously think about what we listen to when we're sitting with our friends. Are we committing ghibah or not? Are we listening to ghibah or not? Because at the end of the day, it's our responsibility.